This is Trevenchy, and we are talking on the Week 7 preview. We are officially halfway through the CFB season, and within the next few weeks, we will start to see the CFP Top 25 rankings get released. With all of the transformation within the CFP bracket, the new induction of this playoff model, things have been very competitive. I have seen a lot more of tenacity within the underdog teams this year, and with the flash plays and being able to battle and fight through in any sort of imbalance of talent, you've definitely seen a more even playing field within each Power 4 conference and even some of the outer Power 4 conferences. But we've already done a week 7 or week 6 reaction, and within that weekend itself, there were so many upsets, a lot of action just to cover. But we're going into this weekend in which there's a lot more implicated games, playoff implicated games. And when I'm speaking on playoff implications, it's as easy as looking at the numbers in front of the teams. You have a number 2 versus a number 3 matchup, and in itself, that is one of the more significant games that you will get to watch all year. But we're not going to go straight into that big granddaddy of them all game in Autzen Stadium. We're actually just going to go by conference, and of course, we're excited for tonight's ASU versus Utah game, but we'll hit the ACC real quick because we only have 2 games to cover. So, really excited games that I have within the ACC conference are these 2 main ones. Previously, at hosting College Game Day down in Berkeley, California last week, the Cal Bears are now 3-2 on the season, but in a dramatic fashion, dropping a 1-point loss to Miami last week. They look to respond against a very hot Dion Lewis, Eli Holstein Pittsburgh Panthers team. Pitt hasn't really faced anyone competitive yet. I guess I wouldn't consider Cincinnati a cakewalk. They had a really good comeback within that game, and they also had a really good comeback against West Virginia. So with 2 Big 12 wins under your belt, that is pretty significant. So I'm not going to devalue the Panthers team, but again, we're thinking about conference games. What is going to be the competition within your Power 4 conference? And this is going to be the hardest test for this Panthers team. They're hosting the Cal Berkeley Bears, and of course, I've been loving the Jaden Ott show within the Bears team, but at the end of the day, this will tell the tale of whether Pittsburgh is a legit contender. Because if they come in with a win, they're actually 6-0 on the season, and they're looking to compete with Miami for an ACC championship. The other ACC game that I'm really excited about is Notre Dame versus Stanford. This is just one of those classic rivalries that occurs every single year. Usually, when Stanford was in the Pac-12, this was typically one of the later games in the season, but due to conference realignment, this happens to happen a lot earlier in the season. But that pretty much sums up the ACC talk, and now we go straight into some Big 12 action. Of course, this Friday at 7:30 tonight on ESPN, we have ASU hosting the Utah Utes. Utah is number 16th team in the nation, and their star quarterback Cam Rising, 7 years in college football, is now projected to start. And so with all that excitement just coming from the 2 4-1 schools, the competition, the anxiety of just representing this really, really open conference. I wouldn't say there's a clear dominant team within the Big 12 right now, but whoever comes out with a win this tonight at least will at least control their own destiny and be in a potential driver's seat for that number 2 spot in the Big 12 championship. But what I'm most excited about, obviously, is just Cam Rising's return. Is he going to be able to rebound with a dislocated ring finger? That happened to it was a unnecessary roughness call from Baylor that caused him to dislocate his finger against the Gatorade jug being pushed out of bounds. But at the end of the day, you can only have so many years of eligibility within college football. So this looks to be the final year for Cam Rising's potential. Will the ASU run defense stop Micah Bernard? Will the ASU offense show a sense of identity? All these questions will be answered, but I think it's easy to infer that if ASU does win this Utah game in a dramatic fashion, then they could face a top 25 ranking. but I'd say it'd have to be a blowout. If it's just a sneaky game that they come out with, I don't think ASU gets ranked after this week. Another great Big 12 game happening. There's honestly 4 really good ones. One of them I'm really excited about is the UCF versus Cincinnati game. Of course, this is the battle of running backs. I love to see a Corey Kiner versus RJ Harvey battle it out. I personally think this will be a higher scoring game just because of the limited defenses. They have really good defenses, but it's all matchups, and the skill players within these two teams definitely compete every single week. So can't wait to see that one. And then another Big 12 matchup that I'm very excited about is BYU hosting U of A. Of course, it's so difficult to play in Provo, but this is a midday game. And usually Provo, Utah has that night game feel to it, but happening during the day, U of A is coming off a really bad loss in hosting Texas Tech last week, and of course, they want to establish some sort of consistency. I've seen a lack of identity within their offense, but I feel like their defense definitely is coming together. They have some Sunday players on that defense, especially Sunday players on that offense with Teodoro McMillan. But of course, this is all about who plays better defense with this specific matchup. I can't wait to see Naknawahine running against the U of A defense because that will probably determine whether he is still my 5th-ranked running back in the Big 12 or if I have to knock him down to an honorable mention because I really want to put Taj Brooks in that top 5. I don't think he's an honorable mention anymore. I think he's deserved the spotlight of being a top 5 runner in the Big 12. Another great Big 12 game that I'm really excited about is Kansas State versus Colorado, with the energy of the Buffaloes all just stemming from that Hail Mary against Baylor. That has pretty much been the narrative within this Colorado team. It has been the flash. Like, what has brought the spark? Well, they've done it in so many ways, but I still think they have a limited defense, and really excited to see what Kansas State can do against this defense. Avery Johnson has been playing some good ball. Their only exception is the momentum game where they went into Provo and lost dramatically to BYU. But in this college football landscape, those kind of things tend to happen, especially when you have a young quarterback in Avery Johnson. But just thinking of it like this. This is the Dylan Edwards revenge game against Colorado, previously the running back for Colorado last week, and he actually has family ties with Prime. He's really close with all that family, so I can't wait to see DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards run on the Colorado Buffaloes, but always, it is entertainment watching Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders play some football. Another great game that I'm really excited about within the Big 12 landscape is the Iowa State Cyclones playing the West Virginia Mountaineers. Right now, Iowa State is 5-0. They are undefeated on Big 12 play simply because they've played the 2 worst teams in the Big 12. Actually, I wouldn't say Houston's the worst team anymore after their performance last week against TCU, but you get my point. Iowa State completely handled it against Baylor and Houston. Now they actually face a competitive Big 12 team because West Virginia has everything to prove. They're undefeated within the Big 12, and if they beat this Iowa State team, they're in the driver's seat because they're 3-0 within conference play. So all of these implications going into the Big 12 championship and contending for one, obviously this game will be a dramatic one. I personally think West Virginia will come out with it, but that's probably my bias in thinking that Iowa State isn't a legit contender because I haven't seen them play anyone legit. So if they do show up against West Virginia, that might change my sentiment on the Cyclones team. Essentially everything else within the Big 12 is it's all action. There's going to be a lot of good defense this weekend, especially tonight. And I'm just really excited to see who's going to show up, who's going to stand out from this really hectic crowd. Now, within the Big Ten, there are 3 major matchups that I'm really excited about. I'll go over the easier one first, Iowa versus Washington. I think Washington will come out with this one because I think teams have adjusted to the Iowa scheme of just playing really good defense, limited offense, and you can capitalize on that model in itself. I don't think it's sustainable just because teams really know how to lock in on defense now, and if you really can't get any production on the offensive side of the ball, you're going to be a limited team in general. So can't wait to see what that one holds just because Washington comes off some a little bit of I would say highs and lows within their Big Ten play so far this year. They had a really bad game against Rutgers, and I was very shocked to see that. But they showed up, which they should have showed up against a limited offense in Michigan last week. So I can't wait to see what these Huskies can do within their new conference. Now, a really new, really great Big Ten matchup that wouldn't have happened last year, and that is the USC Trojans facing off against Penn State. Penn State right now is surprisingly the fourth ranked team in the college football landscape, and I wouldn't give them that ranking just based on eye test, but if you continue to win, remain consistent and undefeated, obviously you're going to earn that spotlight. So going into the Coliseum for the first time, the Penn State Nittany Lions, Drew Aller and his amazing offensive coordinator look off to face against a competitive USC team that is probably pissed off. They had just lost a game or dropped a terrible game to the Golden Gophers last week against Minnesota. Now they come back out to the amazing, beautiful Inglewood, California. The Trojans got to represent. I'm actually excited because you just don't get to see Big Ten football in the Coliseum until this year. So, of course, I'm going to go with USC just because I think that Penn State is a pretender. But I'm not going to go too emotional on it. If USC ends up losing, it's probably just a testament of their limited play within the trenches and their inability to adjust to Big Ten football, because that tends to happen. And now, the marquee matchup of the Big Ten this weekend, the College Game Day hosted fair. I mean, this is truly a battle of amazing coaches, amazing skill players, and historic programs. We have the Oregon Ducks hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes. You guys know how I feel. You know how I love a good little Chip Kelly revenge game because he used to be the Oregon Knight in shining armor. He was the offensive coordinator and head coach that had completely reshaped football and adding the addition of jet sweeps, bubble screens. Chip Kelly football within Oregon has started this chain of events of creative play calling in the offense. Now, in this era, everything is really about creative play calling, scripting up good game plans that give your skill players separations and positions to succeed and put them into positions to succeed. And of course, Chip Kelly obviously is going to have that tension and going back to Autzen again, and he'll be chilling in the box. But it's that testament to these historic programs and the context within their coaching trees. Can't wait to see Dan Lanning come up to this test. Really love that guy, and I can't wait to see if Ryan Day and his best friend Chip Kelly can come up to the plate as well. Of course, there might be a little bit of the crowd that has Ryan Day on a hot seat, but in my opinion, I don't think so at all. I think this is definitely the year they take back their Michigan and Ohio State rivalry, and they're 0-3 within the last 3 years. But again, you go into the season, you go and look at your schedule, and you say, how can I put my team in a position to succeed? Right now, you're going into Autzen in the mid-season, and Oregon had a slower start within their first few games, but at the end of the day, it's all about the win column, and they have still yet to lose a game. So, of course, someone is coming out with a loss in this one. So, number 2 versus number 3. Can't wait to see this one at 4:30 on NBC. This is probably the biggest Big Ten game of the year. Now we'll go into the few SEC games that I'm really excited about. We're going over the Ole Miss versus LSU game first because this is sharing primetime coverage with the Ohio State game. I think the obvious SEC diehard fans will tune into this one, but if you're truly a college football fan, you're probably just watching that Ohio State-Oregon game. But at the end of the day, Jackson Dart, Garrett Nussmeier, both of them leading their teams to 4-1 starts. Whoever comes out with this game probably at least determines their likeliness in competing for an SEC championship or CFP contention. I really like LSU to come out with this one just because I think Ole Miss is in the same category as Penn State, where they're just pretenders. They play good football, but they feast on lesser quality teams, and that's probably what's compensating their record a little bit. But another really good SEC matchup that I'm excited for And that is because this was previously a Big 12 rivalry. The Battle of the Red River rivalry. I am so excited to see who is going to step up this weekend. Quinn Ewers has now been activated after a few weeks off, giving Arch Manning all of the praise and showtime. But at the end of the day, Oklahoma will have to establish their presence in the SEC if they at least want to be in contention. I'm really excited to see what can happen with this because Texas is number one right now. So, frankly, I do want to see Oklahoma come out with this win, but I would not be surprised if Texas comes out winning the Battle of the Red River. At the end of the day, though, this is going to be a jam-packed weekend, just as every other weekend will be as the season progresses. Of course, these games are going to get a lot more weighty. The conference implications and the CFP implications will start to weigh heavy on these teams. And at the end of the day, you have to establish your identity and stay true to it. Of course, I definitely am predicting a few top 10 losses this weekend. Easy to infer with the Oregon and Ohio State game, but who knows? I honestly could see some players or some teams dropping out of this top 10, you know, within the Coliseum. Penn State could be losing this weekend within the Battle of the Red River. Texas could be losing this weekend. And within the LSU Ole Miss game, Ole Miss could be losing this weekend. So we'll definitely be watching everything, covering it all, adding those amazing narratives after the weekend's over. But what I really want you to do is just enjoy this Saturday. This slate is jam-packed. The morning games are a little slower, but as soon as 12:30 hits, that's when you got to be locked in with the popcorn ready. So make sure to enjoy your amazing CFB slate this weekend. Make sure to fight on with the Sun Devils tonight as we look to upset the Utah Utes. But at the end of the day, it's just another weekend of college football. Forks up, guys, though. Thank you so much. This is Trevenchy's Week 7 preview of the college football weekend. Thank you, guys.